All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we will pause for a coffee break. Refreshments are available outside in the hall. We encourage you to once again connect with colleagues and continue the discussion sparked by today's sessions. Please be back in your seats by 3:40 p.m. as the program will resume at 3:45. Thank you all. All right, everybody, welcome back. Our next session, Tech Talk and Data Sport, explores how data can transform the way cities and organizations make decisions, from understanding communities to improving performance and sustainability. As our world becomes increasingly data-driven, this discussion looks at how information can move beyond numbers to create real human-centered actions. Please welcome to the stage moderator Lucy Mills.
Thank you. Yes, great. Okay, really excited to dive into the session all about data. We'll look at how data is compiled, analysed. We'll look at what to do with data once we've collected it. And we've got some brilliant case studies from our esteemed contributors today. So I'd like to invite to the stage Dr. Hema Chandran Kannan, who is the director of the AI Research Centre, vice dean of the School of Business, and area chair of the analytics department at Woxin University in India. Dr. Kannan is a global expert in AI, in machine learning and robotics. Thank you. Then Hema is joined by Dr. Walker J. Ross, lecturer in sports management at the University of Edinburgh in the UK, founding member of the Sport Ecology Group. Dr. Ross has an extensive portfolio, research, publications, programs in global sport related to sustainability and ecology. And lastly, we invite Chung-Sik Young, director of the Data Strategy Division at Seoul Metropolitan Government, where he leads AI governance, open data initiatives, and urban analytics projects. So we will proceed with 3 excellent case studies from 3 respective cities, and then we'll move into some questions to elaborate on the themes presented. So without further ado, thank you.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And here I'm going to present on what pilot project we have developed and we implemented with the Telangana government in Hyderabad. Basically, I am from India, especially from Woxin University. Woxin University is a 200 acres campus with have a beautiful sports complex. So initially we have developed this pilot program with our sports complex, and then we integrated in the Telangana government. So behavioral GPS. A lot of people talk about AI now, but AI is not only the key factor which will define the results. Human decision is very important. So in our project, what we have done is we are using a machine with data. Not only that, and also we have taken a behavioral analysis of a people, and that is a key input for my model so that we can take a better decision with the human supervision. In this, if you see, in Hyderabad, we have around, the population is more, like now it is 10.2 million, it will reach to 12.8 million. So in that case, a lot of things will differ, like especially traffic congestion will be there, energy demand also will be there. Then people can't survive from one place to other place where a lot of difficulties, that water, everything will be get collapsed. So we build one AI model that manages everything in the city. Smart city. Smart city is nothing but just have a machine and data where we can manage the things. It's not about that. We have to understand that what kind of data we are using it, and also the human behavior, especially the people behavioral and psychological analysis need to be understand about it. What people will look at it, what people will know, and what they will do it, especially in day-to-day life. The behavioral GPS concept is very simple, where you will do the psychological analysis of the human behavior with AI. And we can give a solution for the various key factors, not only on transportation, like water, supply of energy, then even transportation, all those things will get covered in this. We developed in 2022 to 24, 2 years, we have taken so much of effort and we have developed it. But the data we are lacking of. So that time the Telangana government has developed the Telangana Data Exchange. With that, we have a lot of data resources where from around 17 domains we got it, and then we have developed the psychological analysis of the human behavior. So not only this, where we created a digital twin in this. Like in the smart city, for example, let's take one small scenario. Like as the government wants to put a layout of a park in the city, but whether the people will use that or not, we don't know. After a lot of huge investment has been done and the layout is done, if people are not using it, then it's a loss for the government. So to avoid all those things, where we have built this digital twin, not only for that, even whether if we put the park there, whether how the traffic will be, how we can manage the traffic, everything can be analyzed with the help of this digital twin. It doesn't not only works for that, even it can work for more than other things like energy demand, then water supply. Not only that, even we can look into that if a, a, a new sport or like the cricket, like IPL has been happening in Hyderabad, where how to manage the people crowd and how to make them safe richly to the home after the midnight of those sports get over. So everything can be done like a pre-planned. We can use the digital twin, we can do the analysis, and once we get the proper output of it, then we can implement it. It has around reached around 84% of accuracy. We reached it in the last year IPL when we conducted in Hyderabad. The technical overview, the three things are very important. One is the behavioral intelligence, especially AI is mainly used for this, and with the psychological analysis where the human supervision is very important, especially managing both the things. Coming to the democratic thing, where we not when we are using the people data, we clearly form the ethical committee and we have developed the framework for this, and then only you're using, so that the citizens will be free, have a more freedom, and also the privacy concerns will be addressed in this. The last one is the predictive optimization, is nothing but like how we are going to make the optimization, where if the cricket IPL is happening, then how we can manage it properly so that much crowd will not go there, so that there will be a lack of transportation, or they feel like why need to go and attend. There are a lot of glitches are there, lot of pollution, lot of things will happen. So how to overcome all those things and we can achieve it. So everything can be done with the help of a digital twin. We can analyze it and then we can ask them to go and attend all those things. Where we created a kind of an application for our people in Telangana, where they can use it and they can see that what kind of a transportation now available in this particular time to go and watch the games in the stadium. This is a pilot study we have done it. We used 42 distributed edge computing nodes. We have used it. It's all like kind of technical things which have been looked at it. And in this 27,000 approximately 300 citizen data, survey data we've been collected, and 3,800 mobility trackers deployed in that to get all the data of the citizens in Telangana, and have been using in various forms to get the best experience for the people. This is a policy maker friendly outcomes which we have made it. Like the government is very happy when we implement this, and whenever they want to see the best results from that, they are taking up and they are making use of it from our pilot program. Sports venue integration, we have made our complex, sport complex as a test bed, and also the Gachibowli Stadium. We made it as a test bed and we implemented this, and we see what is the outcome of it. We see that 42.3% of increase in sports participation. People are coming from home and they're just going and attending the games in the stadium, because previously there is a lack of transportation is there because of huge crowd, and then cost is also high, and the people were seeing that what kind of people have been looking at it. So we made a kind of social media sentiment analysis also. We have done it, like what kind of people are going to take part in that particular games, whether the adults to adult people or old age people, or a kind of a male female, those kind of analysis we are doing it, and then we are coming into a conclusion that what kind of people need to be attended. So these are the accuracies we got it from that pilot. Sport facility optimization, yes, absolutely, we have done it, especially because of there is a lack of transportation because of huge crowd, and also the cost of the games what they are playing, whether we want to fee, the fee has to be paid for this, or for to see the watch the games, those kind of things. We have done a proper analysis of this, and then we run this in a digital twin platform where we can understand that whether how much crowd will come. Based on that, how we can plan the transportation, how we can plan the venue, and where we have to do it. Everything can be analyzed using a digital twin, and then we will implement this sport facility optimization. You can see that the 41% of increase in facility utilization, it happened in that. The transportation sport integration, yes, we created a program called Guaranteed Ride Home Program, because people have a kind of a feeling that if the game will be complete in the midnight of 1 o'clock, then how I can reach home safely. So for them, we prepare this Guaranteed Ride program, where that helps them to be reach home safely after the games completed, because a lot of crowd will be there, a lot of things will happen. Might be if the opponent have been won the game, or something might be in cricket, India Pakistan, those kind of things are happening. So to avoid all those things, we have created this kind of a thing where it will be more helpful for them to reach safely, so that gives more happiness to the people. Also they trust the governance, that is very important here. That's what they are looking at it. The sports event management, yes, it's absolutely we are driven with this, especially to understand that where we have to conduct the event, how, whether the people will come and attend these things, completely run by the digital twin platform, and then we'll take a decision. It's not about the decision is taken by AI, it will be completely supervision by the humans, and then the decision will be carried out. Health sports integration. So when we implemented this, we have a less number of people take part in this, and they're doing it. But when we started integrating the health also in this, like this application will give you that what kind of sport you like, and what is your weight, height, and all those things will be analyzed, and it will suggest you that if you take this kind of a sport, then automatically the health will be in good, your cholesterol level, blood glucose level, everything will be monitored, and it will be give a best thing for you, so that automatically it will create an awareness program among yourself, and then you automatically go and take care of your health in very well in manner. So all those things can be analyzed. So this is one of the application we have integrated in the app. So the thing is, 40% has been registered previously. After integrating this application, it reached to 70%. The governance outcomes, yes, after this, a lot of people started trusting the government, Telangana government, and the corruption is reduced, transparency, satisfaction is there more, and service access is around 26.4%, and participatory engagement, it reaches to 74.5. Automatically, this generates a revenue for the people who are having a stadium, and they're doing a lot of sports games, whatever they do in that. Then we plan to replicate the same pilot program in Portugal also. With Católica Business School, we are trying to do it, and we'll see how it goes and all those things. And these are the investments and ROI of the highlights. Like we have invested around 142 crore of annual savings. We can get it from this, and payback is around. It takes around 7.8 months. Operational efficiency, you will get it like 41% increase in this, and the quality of improvement is 15%. This was the Indian success story which we have implemented in the Hyderabad, and how we reached that kind of accuracy. And Yeah, this implementation success metrics, what are the things we have analyzed, especially the behavioral analysis, system response of it. Then even we can see that the upland requirement and cultural, especially we are looking into the cultural things because a lot of people nowadays seeing that the cultural integrity is very important in the psychological analysis. So that's it from my side. If anybody wants to see the demo of this applications, you can write it to me. We can fix some meetings and I can give a demo of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hema. Wonderful. Okay, next up we have our second case study. We're going to switch gears slightly and hear more from Dr. Walker J. Ross at the University of Edinburgh.
Hi all. I really appreciate you still being here at this point in the afternoon and for listening to me speak on this passion of mine, this intersection between sport and the natural environment, and particularly to talk about how we use data to make informed decisions about climate resiliency for sport organizations. A lot of this work is done through a nonprofit where I'm the director called the Sport Ecology Group, and I hope that you'll see this as application across not just sport, but events more generally, as well as entire cities. So this is what I want to go through kind of in brief, is talk about like what the data is, what the background is, what are some of the subtleties, and give you an example from Formula One of a project that we've worked on that was beneficial for a team in Formula One, and what we can ultimately do, the adaptations, the decisions we can make. And I always like to end with some helpful resources for people because inevitably people want to learn a little bit more. So if you take anything away from today, let it be these points up here on the screen right now, that sport has this fundamental connection with nature. Some sports are incredibly climate and weather dependent. So you think of like snow skiing, it has to have mountainous terrain, it has to have cold weather, it has to have precipitation that creates snow. You cannot snow ski if those conditions are not precisely right. Other sports have a bit more of an arm's length relationship. So they look at weather, for example, as a factor. So baseball or cricket, you know, they play outdoors, they play in different temperature conditions, but for rain, they're a little bit more sensitive. And other sports are completely indoors, maybe something like badminton or basketball that tend to be a bit more further away from the natural environment. But for those sports that have this environmental relationship, because our climate is changing, because climate change is a very serious problem that our planet is facing, a lot of different organizations are growing really worried about what it will do to sport, what it will do to their infrastructure, what it will do to their strategy. So if sport has this relationship with the environment, it is vulnerable to climate change because we're all vulnerable to climate change. And some of the examples of this that I've seen are events being canceled because of adverse weather conditions that I would tie actually to climate and not just to a once-off kind of iteration. We've seen extreme heat or storms that come through and interfere and cancel marathon events or even like fireworks shows and other sort of non-sport events. We've seen infrastructure damage. On that opening slide, there was a picture of a Major League Baseball stadium in Tampa, Florida. This is a city that gets hit by hurricanes pretty routinely, and yet a big one came through and actually ripped the roof off the stadium, and they have yet to be able to repair it, and it's going to take some time. We've seen an actual retirements from sport as a product of climate change. There was a netballer in Australia who was playing in an indoor gym where the air conditioning went out, and yet the match went forward, and I think the temperatures indoors exceeded 35, maybe 40 degrees. And yet the match went on, and she suffered from such extreme heat exhaustion that she was forced into permanent retirement from the sport and still suffers effects today from that. So this is a concern that I have. But the good news is that we have climate data, and we know how our climate will change and how it's changing right now, and we can use this to make informed decisions about sport, because ultimately, the most depressing thing that I'll say today is this. Sport is not by itself going to solve climate change by having a few more recycling stations and decreasing its water usage, etc. But sport has a really powerful voice, and I think all of us in this room know this. Sport has the power to influence people, has the power to demonstrate good behaviors, the values that we want to see in our communities. So if we can use this data to protect sport, we can use it to protect our cities and maybe protect the world a bit more broadly. So some of the background information you have to understand to really get your head around this specific work that we are doing is that there are different risks for athletes, for spectators, for officials, that there are differences based on the different sports, the levels, the types of events. My concerns for a community 5K charity, kind of fundraiser run are very different than the concerns that I will have for elite Olympic level athletes that are competing, once every 4 years in this really top tier sporting environment. We know that there are differences between male and female bodies in responses to heat. We know that there are differences in age. We know that people living in warmer climates are more resilient to heat compared to people who are not living in warmer climates. And you know that if you go from a cold climate to a warm climate, that it takes your body time to adjust. But knowing these hazards means that we can actually prepare ourselves and that we can adapt to the risks. So if we identify what the problems are that your sport organization, your community, your venue, your sport will face, then we can reduce your sensitivity to climate change. We can reduce the risks that you will face, ultimately keeping people safe, protecting our incomes, protecting our livelihoods, ideally as well. And we've done this research in a variety of contexts. We've done it in motorsport. Again, I'll talk about Formula One. We've done it with football, running, cross-country skiing, the Olympic Games, FIFA Men's and Women's World Cups, and more projects to come that I cannot talk about quite yet, other than to say that many of you in this room come from communities that may benefit from some of the work that we've been doing. So this is a very basic process, and I think by explaining this in some ways, I'm trying to put myself out of a job, because I want you all to be able to do this in some ways for yourselves. We start with looking at what the boundary conditions are that we consider to be safe for sports, safe for spectatorship. And these will, again, they'll vary based on sport, based on events, based on geography, and we're able to say something like, for example, snow skiing, that being above 0 degrees is a big concern, and that we need to reduce the risk when you get above freezing, because that's where we experience snow melt. Then we compare the climate data that we have historically, as well as combining the future projections that we have about how our climate will change, to basically say, look, you are at risk for these kinds of storms historically, but that will increase. Whereas you had 1 storm annually, you might get 2. Whereas you had 10 days above this heat threshold, you might get 20. And then we can make informed decisions about how best to protect people from there. So that is the vulnerability, the adaptation, that we can reduce vulnerability, we can increase adaptation. So this picture on the screen is of a baseball stadium in the United States located on the Mississippi River, which floods quite regularly. That's a very natural thing that rivers do. But the stadium was built in such a way that there are levees around it. So when the river floods, as you can see in the photo, the stadium is just fine, and there's still access to it, and the infrastructure is safe. So good example of climate adaptation by them. So some of the data variables and the sources we look at are ones I've talked about already. Temperature, so for Formula One, for example, we worked with rather low thresholds. Above 25 C is where we have some mild concern for heat, and above 28 is where we start taking more dramatic measures. That was based on things like the fact that we weren't really focused on drivers. We were focused on like the pit crew, the mechanics, the engineers, the other support staff, and they're wearing these heat protection suits. So even in a rather mild day, it is very hot for them. For precipitation, we worked with Pirelli tires to look at the actual threshold for tire grip, to basically say, look, beyond this precise level of rain, tires will fail, and so we want to avoid that. Air quality, we can use air quality indices to look for smoke, for carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and a bunch of other particulate matters. Extreme events, we just try to avoid floods, hurricanes, droughts, you name it, wildfires, we don't want any of those. And then we use future climate projections. So a lot of this data is from your local meteorological offices, it is from periodicals, it's from weather journals. And for the most part, again, this data is already out there and people are talking about it, but we try to make it applicable to sport. We try to make it applicable to the very specific events that you are talking about. So I'll give you some examples of what this data can look like in practice. This is a storm surge risk map for New Orleans, Louisiana. This is a city that is famously built below sea level. So any storm that comes through there is an extreme risk to that community. The areas that are hatched in the sort of black and white are protected by levees. But in 2006, a massive hurricane named Katrina came through, damaged levees, they failed, and then the city flooded internally as a result. And actually the big stadium there became a relief, kind of a shelter for people locally. It was a place they could go if their homes were destroyed, if they had no place to go to seek shelter, if they could not leave. So all those different colored areas there show you essentially the risk levels or how high the water would be. And this is in a Category 1 hurricane, so it gets more dangerous as you up the category of hurricane. This is a global map of fires burning that I pulled from last week. The data is not always perfect, which is to say that I don't think that half of Africa is on fire right now, but we're able to use this to model wildfires and to follow smoke to say, look, there are wildfires burning in Quebec, there are wildfires burning in Southern California, there are wildfires burning in Europe. Where is the smoke going to go? Where are these fires going to go? Do you need to be concerned from a sports standpoint, from a community standpoint? So this is what we were able to do with Formula One. And unfortunately, I don't think this graphic is going to be the easiest to see kind of with a small font, but on a screen, kind of like on your phone, it's easier to zoom in on. But we looked at all the different circuits and mapped these different risks. And we were able to see that some circuits are more at risk than others. Singapore and Qatar were the two that stood out the most as having the most heat, the most flood risk, the most storm risk, and a variety of other variables. Whereas Spielberg, Austria was almost like untouched by our data. We basically said if there's one Formula One circuit that will be safe, it is Austria. Good for them. But this data was taken by a team to better prepare their staff and their drivers. And I don't want to necessarily give too much away, but that team managed to do very well. And I'm not going to claim all the credit for their performance, but if I can claim 0.1% of it, then I will take that. That we were able to help them look at the different environmental factors all over the world. An interesting thing with Formula One is that many of these circuits are, some of them are purpose-built circuits that are outside the city, but many of them, like a Singapore, like a Melbourne, like Baku, like Las Vegas, these are right in the hearts of cities. And building out climate resiliency for these Formula One circuits is building out climate resiliency for these cities, for these communities. So this does not have to be separate work. It can be work that coexists. It can be work that is done in addition to, which I really enjoy. So once we have this data, we can talk about the adaptation strategies. What do we actually do to sort of alleviate the concern? We can have people better acclimate or acclimatize. They prepare their bodies for the conditions that they'll face. We can have better air quality, flood, and weather monitoring. There's a story of the Houston Rockets, an NBA team, were playing a game, and 20,000 people were in this venue, and a severe storm came through, flooded all the roads and everything around the venue. And then once the match ended, all the fans, the players, the media, everyone was stuck in the venue for hours afterwards because they couldn't leave. There was no safe place to go. So if we had better monitoring ahead of time, we could have made the decision to stop the match early, maybe not play it at all, so that people would not expose themselves to that risk. We can change rules or schedules, so football added cooling breaks, hydration breaks. We can move the marathon from starting at 9 a.m. to starting at 8 a.m., where it might be a little bit cooler, and then most of the runners will be running at a cooler part of the day rather than at the most extreme heat of the day in the afternoon. Sometimes we can build more climate resilient infrastructure, and then in some cases, rarely, we just have to take out an insurance policy because there's not much that can be done to protect against, let's say, a Category 5 hurricane. So I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of what we were doing with Formula One and what we do in general here. I'm happy to have more conversation on this, but I always like to point people to helpful resources on the matter. There's a lot of work from the United Nations Environment Program, an entire handbook on sport for nature to talk about sport and its relationship with the natural environment in very basic terms to lay that out. There are peer sport organizations like the FIA and World Rugby that have wonderful work right now on climate resiliency for those sports. There are organizations like my own, the Sport Ecology Group, but there are different ones internationally. So there's BASIS in the UK, GSA in North America, Sport Positive, which is based out of London, but has a more global focus. The SEA in Australia, SANSI is based in mainland Europe. There's dedicated news sources to following environmental, sustainable sport news, and my colleague Madeline Orr has a wonderful book out. If you need something to read on your plane ride home, Warming Up How Climate Change is Changing Sport is an easy read and an excellent read at that. So with that, I really just want to drive home that message that sport has this relationship with the environment, right? And our climate is changing, and therefore sport will need to change with it. But I do believe deep down, we have the tools, we have the resources to protect sport, to protect our communities, and that if we do so, that sport can be this advocate for the rest of the world as to what good climate resiliency looks like. Thank you so much for your time.
Fantastic. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, we're going to move on to Director Yun with a case study a lot closer to home.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Today, I'm honored to share with you our work on a big data-driven strategy for optimizing community sports facility location. I am pleased to introduce the Seoul Metropolitan Government Data Strategy Division. Our mission is clear: to enhance citizens' lives through data. We support data-driven policy, operate platforms such as the Seoul Data Hub and Big Data Campus, and foster both public and private collaboration and active citizen participation. Through this effort, Seoul is positioning itself as a global leader in data innovation and governance. Before talking about algorithm or data model, let's start with a simple question. What makes a city truly sustainable and human-centered? Beyond transportation, housing, and jobs, access to community sports facilities is an essential yet often overlooked factor. These spaces support health, bring people together, and reduce stress, key aspects of a good life in a busy city. Yet in many cities, some neighborhoods have too many facilities while others have too few. So today, we ask, how can big data help optimize the location and impact these facilities? Let's explore. Seoul is taking bold steps to become a real sport for all city. We are adding over 618 new facilities, reduce gap between neighborhoods. At the same time, citizen participation in sports has already doubled. Thanks to better access and more diverse programs, our focus is clear: support communities, update facilities, provide fitness program, and expand outdoor activities. Now let's look at the current distribution of sports facilities. Across Seoul, there are over 1,100 facilities, include ball and racket sports, fitness, school, leisure, and traditional sports. However, the distribution is not even. Some districts like Songpa-gu and Gangnam-gu have many facilities, while Gangnam-gu, Jongno-gu, and Sadaemun-gu have far fewer. This imbalance highlights where targeted investment and community sports are most needed to ensure fair access. Building on the previous map, this chart shows a district-level view of sports facilities by category. The heat map highlights clear differences in supply. Districts like Gangseogu and Songpa-gu have many facilities, while Jongno-gu and Jung-gu and Gangbuk-gu have fewer, especially for leisure and traditional sports. Ball and racket sports and school-based facilities are fairly well distributed, but traditional and leisure facilities remain limited in most areas. This shows why we need data-driven planning to guide future investment and make sure every citizen has fair access to facilities. To close this gap, Seoul is developing a set of targeted strategies. First, spatial analysis identifies districts with fewer facilities, helping focus support where it's most needed. Second, new facilities are strategically placed in underserved areas to avoid oversupply areas. Third, population data include age and density, guides planning based on the community needs. Finally, improving accessibility, physical, economic, and social. Ensure everyone can take part. Through these efforts, Seoul aims to build a more balanced, inclusive, and equitable sports environment for all citizens. We applied a big data workflow with three key steps. First, data collection and processing. Define the scope and gather data on living population, sports facilities, and locations. Then, clear and organize it. The second step, analyze. We GIS map to access possibility distribution and accessibility and demand forecasting based on population and preferences. Third, policy use. Combine accessibility and demand results to identify where and what types of facilities are more needed. This enables evidence-based policy that improves fair access citywide. Now let's look at the basic analysis results. First, age distribution. Age distribution varies by district. Some areas have more young adults, other more seniors. This means facilities need differ across the city. Second, age preference matter. Young adults prefer fitness while middle-aged citizens favor ball and racket sports. Third, gender patterns appear. Women tend to join fitness program while men are more active in ball and racket sports. These insights show that planning must consider age and gender, not just the number of facilities. Next, we analyze the walking accessibility. We build a walking network using OpenStreetMap data to model real routes, link to every facility and grid point, making sure each one was connected, and measured how many facilities are reachable within 5 and 10-minute walks. This shows true walking access, not just a straight line distance, and identifies well-served and underserved area. This slide is demand estimation. After measuring accessibility, we analyze the demand by combining living population data with age-based sports preference. For example, in the grid analysis, people in their 20s show higher demand for ball and racket sports, while those in their 60s show lower demand. By multiplying the population by their preference rate, we estimated the expected demand for each group and combined the results at the grid level. This approach goes beyond the simple counting facilities. It shows where demand is highest and where supply and demand are not aligned. This map shows the estimated demand for ball and racket sports across Seoul. Teenagers have the highest preference of 51% participation, creating strong demand in use-dense areas. Although Seoul use ratio is relatively low overall, districts such as Nowon-gu, Gangdong-gu, and Gangnam-gu show notably higher demand. On the map, this high demand zone appear in dark colors, while across the leading facility, upgrades are shown in green and red. This helps pinpoint where new facility would have the greatest impact. By combining demand and accessibility, we can pinpoint feasible areas for improvement, place where new facilities would make the biggest differences. We also consider public or state-owned land, making construction more practical and cost-effective. This analysis allows Seoul to set evidence-based priorities for future development and ensure that investment serve the most citizens. A 250 meters grid analysis reveals that priority need cluster in both residential and commercial zones, especially in Gangnam-gu, Seokcho-gu, Yangcheon-gu, and Mapo-gu. These are areas where expansion or relocation will yield the greatest benefit. Such insights help guide the strategic decision on new installation and relocation and upgrades. Let me summarize the key results of our analysis. Some districts are highly concentrated, others underserved. And preferences vary, planning must reflect them. And many citizens cannot reach a facility within a short walk. Nowon, Gangdong, Gangnam, and Mapo need priority investment. Integrating population and preference and access yield optimal site. Policy use, insight guide installation and upgrade per fair access citywide. Let's conclusion. Our analysis highlight 2 points. And distribution remain uneven, require target investment. And big data is a powerful policy tool to equitable resource allocation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the data-driven approach from Seoul. Wonderful. Okay, so I've got a series of questions that want to really touch on some of the social dimensions, some of the human-centered participation factors, and then finishing with some kind of thoughts on future scalability and these types of topics. So, Director Yun, you kind of touched on it at the end there about influencing real policy, so and policy decisions. So, can you just give us some examples of how this data-driven approach is really informing budget priorities?
Okay. Seoul uses big data analysis result as an evidence based for facilities investment and location planning. In Seoul metropolitan government needed to evidence in order to planning budget. And this result of analysis, they can use in this material, and the final result can how many budget needed then, and which location is priority, and how to approach the priority. Okay.
Yeah. So so you've got some regions with greater access, some regions with lesser access. So what does that prioritization look like?
Based on the walking distance, based on the the residents, and every sport facility in the other different place. We basically using the OpenStreetMap, how many minutes to the facility there, and accessibility. And the other one is the demand. There are different ratio of in the every ages in 20 and 50, but in difference in preference. So in demand part, the which facilities need more efficiently and effectively to usage. And we consider both of them in supply and demand, and decide to priority.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So, kind of continuing on the theme of inequalities, equalities, access. Walker, this touches a lot on your work, and of course, recognizing that there's different experiences affecting different types of people.
Yeah, it's a really important point to raise, particularly around the climate research that I was showing you. One of the projects that we worked on was with the Oceanic Football Confederation, which is basically New Zealand and then many of the Oceanic and Micronesian island nations out there. And their whole point was not just, what is our climate risk, but like, what can we do about it? Like we're not these massive footballing countries. We're not likely to end up at the World Cup anytime soon. And I think it's a really important point to raise with all this, that this looks differently for grassroots sport. It looks differently for women's sport versus men's sport. It looks differently for sports that are not always in the public eye, like shinty in Scotland, which is a very kind of unique sport just to the Highlands. So we really kind of owe it to each other in some ways to ensure that this information that we have, we use it responsibly, but we also use it to uplift the ones who are not responsible for climate change, who are least able to adapt, who have the fewest resources, the least knowledge. It's a rather big fight that I fight kind of on a day-to-day basis with all this.
And what about the notion that climate issue is expensive, it's another problem that cities have to face, and it's another burden. So what kind of some of your responses to that?
Yeah, inevitably when people look at issues of sustainability more broadly, but certainly climate, it's an extra project, right? It is, I'm already just trying to keep the lights on, I'm already just trying to deliver what I'm trying to deliver, now you're asking me to do this extra thing. But I would make the point, kind of echo what I said in our presentation, that some of this is about the things that you're already doing, and the little improvements that you will make already are climate resiliency, and that if you can view this as something that can be tacked on to the projects that you're already working on, that I'm going to choose this option because it is the right thing, but also it has this climate benefit that makes it so much easier for most cities, most communities, most sport organizations to actually latch onto, because otherwise it will look like an extra line item in your budget, and I know how that goes for people. You don't want an extra line item in your budget if you don't need to have it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so turning to you, Dr. Hema. Incredible case study, very comprehensive, touching on lots of different aspects of citizen engagement, health, infrastructure, and so on. So obviously it's a pilot in your city, and you touched on there that you're exploring the possibility of replicating this in Porto. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so if you want to integrate in any of the city, especially the data plays a crucial role. In that case, what we do is in India, whatever the data we collected, from there we taken the patents, and that patents can be used to different cities where we can generate a synthetic data and we can make use of it. And that is the reason we mentioned that around in 6 to 7 months, we can integrate in the city and we can see that how it works and all those things. Not only in Hyderabad, we doing the same pilot where we didn't do any survey, and just we taken the patterns from the Hyderabad and we generated synthetic data, and we just started implementing in Chennai and Bangalore. We are doing it. So I think so if it succeeds, then it will be a great thing. Yeah.
Amazing. So, and a call out for any city there, who to talk to. And then in terms of scaling something like this, what are the key partnerships, collaborations, different levels of intervention that are really important?
Especially like sir, like from municipal department, if they support and help us, it is easy for us to understand that what is their expectation of the particular city and where the challenges have been. So that will be helpful for us to build the model in a rigorous way and we can implement. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and finally, to Director Young. So, this example of Seoul as a data-driven or using data approaches, how can this be shared globally? I know that you're connected to initiatives, of course, the Smart City Community and Olympic Legacy Forum. So, yeah, tell us about your kind of call to action in sharing what you're doing on a global scale.
Okay, I think the reference model is very important, and lots of cities wanted to make a policy based on the evidence base, but they don't know in which reference is the best or not. So I'd like to share in source in reference, and in order to know like this forum. In case of Seoul, every year we held the big data the forum in global event. We know our knowledge and experience to each other. And so in case of an Olympic forum is very important in the community. So thank you for sharing, giving opportunity to in Seoul. And I'd like to share in other in good references.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we have a couple of minutes left if there are any questions from the audience. Okay, don't see any hands. That's clearly a sign that we had some very complete presentations. So thank you very much for sharing 3 very different ways of using data effectively with some incredible outcomes. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
A big round of applause. One more time for our panelists, please.